93% of your life is spent indoors, but so many of our favorite moments are outdoors. The fresh air, the feeling of peace. Since warmer weather is almost here, let's make the most of it with Outer, the new outdoor furniture company with purposely designed furniture to get you outdoors more.
Outer makes the world's most beautiful, comfortable, innovative, and high-quality outdoor furniture, all from sustainable materials. I love the new outdoor dining table and chairs I just bought. It looks great in my backyard, and it's the perfect setup for hosting a dinner party. Go to liveouter.com/thefounderhour to see all the incredible products they have to offer.
For a limited time, get 10% off and free shipping. That's liveouter.com/thefounderhour. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey everyone, before we get into the episode, just a quick reminder, if you enjoy what you hear, please follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. That way you get notified when new episodes drop. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, at The Founder Hour. Let's get into it. Welcome to another episode of The Founder Hour. Our guest today is Isaac Larian, the visionary founder of MGA Entertainment. MGA is home to some of the biggest brands in the toy space, including Bratz, Tikes, L.O.L Surprise, MGA's Miniverse, and more. Join us as we embark on a journey through the fascinating life and entrepreneurial saga of a man who's not only shaped the toy industry, but also overcome formidable odds to build an enduring legacy. Isaac shares the intricacies of his upbringing, offering a rare glimpse into the early experiences that fueled his entrepreneurial spark. From navigating challenges to seizing opportunities, he takes us through the pivotal moments that defined his path, a journey marked by resilience, creativity, and an unyielding commitment to his dreams. Discover the behind-the-scenes stories of MGA's rise to prominence as Isaac delves into the innovative strategies and bold decisions that propelled the company to become a global leader in the toy industry. Learn how he transformed adversity into motivation, turning setbacks into stepping stones on the road to success. This episode is not just a conversation, it's an exploration of the mindset that drives one of the most influential figures in the business world today. Hope you enjoy.
So, I was born in Kashan, Iran. Kashan is a city about 150 kilometers from Tehran. And my dad was a textile merchant, very successful textile merchant, but he was not, I guess, a very good businessman. He made a lot of money, but he gave a lot of his money to his friends, etc. And when I was 4 years old, he went bankrupt. So he went bankrupt and we moved from Kashan to Tehran. First, we lived with my grandmother in a 2-bedroom apartment that they had. And then my dad moved us to a city in Tehran, or outskirts of Tehran, called Narmak. Narmak at that time had no water, no electricity. We would get the water from the gutter, and which would come 2-3 times a year. And literally we'll go from one house to another, and you will fill up the well. And we had no electricity at that time. So I remember, we shared a house with my aunt, who also had 5 kids. And it was me and my sister at the time, who literally was a baby. She's 5 years younger than me. I went to elementary school, and I remember, my mother had me when she was 14 years old. She got married at 13. Mm. She's a smart, hard worker, very strong woman. And she put up with my dad's situation, even though she came from a wealthy family. Mm-hmm. But she followed my dad throughout his life. He would buy clothes or fabric, and we would sell in the house. And my mom will also, she was a good sewer, so she would make dresses for the neighbors, etc. And then he got a small shop where he was selling textile, close-out textile down there. So, when I went to school, I remember vividly that my mom will sit under candlelight and teach me math and writing, etc. That's how I grew up. We went to that place in Tehran was very poor, predominantly fanatic Muslims. I have a lot of Muslim Iranian friends to date, and some of my best friends. But unfortunately, in that area they were basically brainwashed that the Jews are dirty, and I remember when it would rain, they would beat me up because they said the rain touches the Jew's body, and dirt is the earth. So don't come out. So anyway,
is this during just to sort of set the tone in terms of time-wise?
It's during the Shah's time.
During the Shah's time. So this is before the Ayatollah Khomeini came.
Yeah, I was born in 1954. So long in the 60s. But it was like that. So
Isaac, I'm curious. You talked about how your mother came from a wealthy family and she stuck it through with your dad. Did she see something in him, see some potential in him? Did she ever talk about, those days after?
No, at that time, my dad was 18 years older than my mother when they got married.
Wow.
So at that time, it was pretty much arranged marriage. My mother's own mother had passed away when she was only 6 years old. So, and they were 5, 6 siblings. So if somebody came and they said, okay, I want to marry your daughter, and she's had her puberty and she can have babies, they would say, okay, go ahead, please take her. So that's basically what happened. But my dad was charming. He was very, very charming. He was handsome. So that's what happened.
Yeah. Growing up in sort of these circumstances, what was your outlook on sort of your future? What did you think it would look like?
Well, my outlook built over time. As first of all, I worked since I was 9 years old at the shop. But even before that, I would go to school, and a lot of times I got beat up by the kids in the neighborhood. And I would come home. At one time, my mother, I was all bloodied. She said to me, I never forget that. She says, if you ever come home again, beaten up and bloody, I'm going to also hit you. When they hit you, you fight back. So, I went.
What did you do at that point? Did you learn self-defense? Were you angry? Were you angry?
Of course, I was very, very angry. And, so I started at that age, working out. I got 2 bricks and 2 pieces of wood and made dumbbells out of them.
My God.
And started working out. And one day, I was in my mind, I was ready for next fight. So one day when I came out of the house and a group of these guys, and there was a bully in the neighborhood. His name was Morteza.
You haven't forgotten about him, huh?
No, he was big, built up, and he was the biggest bully. So he says he basically started bothering me, and I said, okay, don't do that or I will hit you. And he said, okay, let's do it. He took off his shirt, and the rest of the kids literally made a circle and put me in front of him. And I don't know what came out of me. I still don't remember. But I just saw red. And I started hitting him so hard. And of course, he was hitting me also. But
all that anger came out.
Yeah, all that anger came out. And, a few minutes later, he was on the floor. And I was on top of him. And the kids pulled us apart.
What did you learn from that experience?
To fight back.
Yeah.
To basically fight back. After that incident, I got the respect of him. He became a close friend of mine later on.
Once you kicked his ass, it's probably all right,
exactly.
I'm your friend.
Yeah, exactly.
You're one of me.
Right, exactly. And I got the respect of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that I remember. There are a lot of things that I remember that built what I became later on. I mean, there's another incident that I remembered vividly, and that is probably what gave me the vision to do and be here where I am. One of my dad's creditors, in Tehran, people don't know it snows, and it was during the month of December, and heavy snow was there, and one of his creditors with basically a bouncer came in, knocked at the door. I opened the door, they burst in, went to the living room, and he had a metal stick, and he hit my father so bad that he fell bloody on the floor because he was asking for his money. And my mother was crying, and my little sister was crying, and I was in a state of shock.
And how old were you at this time?
I think about 8 or 9 year old at that time, maybe even younger. But so after they left, my mom said, "Go get your uncle." And my uncle lived about 4 or 5 kilometers away from where we were living. And so I put my shoes on. I had a pair of shoes, snowshoes, but had a hole in it. Black shoes. We call them galouche. So, I put those on. I started walking on the snow to go get my uncle. And I remember vividly that my feet was frozen. I was crying. And, I said to myself at that time that one day I'm going to have so much money that I'm going to take care of my whole family. So they're never going to be poor, and I'll take care of them. And that's the vision that I remember, and I think that was one of the reasons for my success.
Oftentimes when I think someone grows up in an environment like that and hasn't been exposed, perhaps in their immediate circle, to somebody or something where you've seen that sort of wealth creation, where you've seen it's possible,
right.
like this is something that I can achieve if I want to. It feels so far away. It feels so distant. Right. Was there anybody that, maybe not in the family, but in your community that you saw, this is something that is possible for me to achieve?
No, it was just a vision that I set up. I mean, my uncles were wealthy. They lived in the wealthier neighborhood, and my cousins were wealthy. So I always basically looked up to them with an envy, to be honest with you.
What did they do? Is it familial?
They were in cosmetic business.
Okay.
So that's what happened. But I worked throughout my high school at my dad's shop. And when I graduated from high school, I said, I want to get out of here. I want to get out of here.
When did the thought of coming to America kind of arise in your head?
When I was about 16, 17, and I would get some money. I went to see a movie. You guys were not born, called Easy Rider with Peter Fonda.
Is that Henry Fonda's brother? Or
no, son.
Peter, Jane Fonda's brother.
Yes, exactly. And for me, it was a great movie. I looked at it was Hollywood. Wow, and a motorcycle and beautiful blonde girls and everything girls. And it's wow, this is where I want to go. I want to go to, I had a big afro, darker skin.
Yeah, like I'll fit right in.
Yeah.
Did you have any other friends or people that have moved to America?
I had another friend. His name is L.O.L. We were classmates together. He wanted to come to, he says he wants to come to America. First of all, let me backtrack for a second. After high school, you usually try to go to university. Mm-hmm. And in Iran, there is a test that you have to take. It's called concours. Mm-hmm. And they basically allow people with good grades from top down. I was an average student, so was L.O.L. So we got rejected. He had a brother, older brother, that had come to America, I think 7-8 months before. And his brother had a cousin who was here about a couple of years before that. So he said, yeah, I'm going to go and get admission to university and go to America. I said, I'm going to do the same thing. So we both applied for universities. I was admitted to University of Missouri in Rolla, and he came to Los Angeles. He was in Los Angeles, his brother was here. So I said, okay, I'm going to go. But first, in order to go from LA to America, you had to either go to New York or to LA. Yep. So I came to LA, and, my mother had borrowed $753 from my uncles and got me a one-way ticket from $750 cash and a yellow blanket, which is actually hanging in the MGA headquarters outside.
Wow. And
send me my way. So I was 17. I came here.
With all the blonde girls greeting you at the airport?
There was none. There was absolutely none. So, but L.O.L was kind enough. I had written him a letter with my flight, etc. So he picked me up with his cousin. And they took me to their apartment. They had a single apartment on Hawthorne Boulevard. And, single, if you have, I don't know, what a single apartment is. A kitchenette, a living room, a couch that turns to bed.
Like a studio.
Yes, exactly. So there was not enough room even for the both of them. And, at night, they put the couch out. They were sleeping together, and I slept on the floor. But I fell asleep before they went to sleep. And I remember listening I had jet lag, so I had waken up and was listening to Johnny Carson's show. They were laughing. I had no idea what they was saying.
Did you spoke English though at the time?
No,
you didn't speak English?
No, nothing.
So, I mean, you had obviously by this time already faced a ton of adversity growing up, seeing,
right.
The move to Tehran, seeing the, incident with your father, basically having no money, not going to university, coming here, no blonde girls greeting you. It's all devastating. And you're now living on the floor in this small space. What the hell are you thinking? I mean, like, what is going through your mind?
What the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. What did I
do? Sign up for?
What a mistake I made. I mean, I woke up during my jet lag, and the two brothers were talking, and the older brother says, what the hell is he doing here? Why did he come here? He has no money, no job. We don't have room here. We can't take care of him. Ask him to go back tomorrow. Ask him to go back. And I listened to that, and my heart dropped. And I really, frankly, if I had money to buy another ticket, I would have gone back next week, right after that. So, but, so I stayed with them for a couple of more days. And we went he was in LA Southwest College. And I went there, sitting in the cafeteria. I didn't have money to go to Missouri, go to University of Rolla. And I had come here to work, and everybody told me, where Rolla is, there's no jobs. There's 30,000 students, and how the hell are you going to go to University of Rolla? So I went to LA Southwest College, and I was a kid. I was 17 years old. And I was literally sitting there crying and waiting to see what the hell to do next, waiting for L.O.L to finish his classes. And a guy came over, his name was Shahrukh, and he said to me in Farsi, are you Persian? I said, yes. He says, why are you crying? So I told him the whole story, and he said to me, pack your bags, I'll pick you up tomorrow. You come and live with me and my other two roommates. So I was, it was like, wow, God sent. So,
Yeah.
so that's what I did. We went to, they had a 2-bedroom apartment in 118 South Walnut in Inglewood. That's, I remember the address. And he picked me up. He went there, and he introduced me to his other 2 roommates. They're also Persian. And he says, okay, but you got to pay your share of the rent, food, etc.
And had they come to America much prior?
Before, yeah, it had come about a couple of years.
So they had sort of gotten a little
Right,
sense of
yes.
how things work.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And Isaac, at this moment in time, if you remember, did you still have that mindset of I want to be super rich so I could provide for my family?
No, I was my mind was, how the hell am I gonna eat and survive?
Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You're like back at the bottom.
Yeah, my mind went to survival.
Yeah.
My mind went to survival mode, and I started looking for a job. I walked literally Hawthorne Boulevard for about 9 miles, and at that time, Persians, when they came, wore a suit, because if you're going to look for a job, you got to look good. So I wore this green suit and I started walking. I didn't have money to go. I had 25 quarters left after buying sheets and food, etc. And so it was 40 days I was in America, and literally I was down to 25 quarters.
That's $4.25.
No, $6.25.
Okay, my math. I'm not good at math.
Yeah, no, I remember that. So, but
hard to forget,
I touched it, and I went to every coffee shop, gas station, 7-Eleven, you name it, store, asking for a job. Nobody. They said no. So, and someone looked at me weird, like, what the hell is this guy doing with his suit, asking for any kind of job you have? Finally, I got to this coffee shop called the Spires Coffee Shop, and they also said no to me. And I had walked, now it was about 5-6 p.m., and they said no to me. And I started crying and walking back. And I was very hungry, but I had only 25 quarters left. So there was a guy who I saw behind the counter. And as I was walking back, he came and put his hand on my shoulder and asked me if I'm Persian. I said, yes. And he said, yeah, my name is Mohammed. Okay. So he says, are you hungry? I said, yes. He said, come back. So he took me back. He says he's the general manager of Aspire. And he gave me liver and onion. I still taste that. And I go there once in a while to still have it.
Yep.
It was the best food I ever had. So,
I'm curious.
Yeah.
It sounds like this was like a couple times you had someone sort of enter your life in this moment where you're like at your bottom.
Right.
And I don't know, in retrospect, when you think about it, I feel like there's this like thing with the universe where you like put this energy out there and it comes back to you. Did you feel like the way you were approaching people, or the way, like, what is there anything you can talk about in terms of why you think that happened? Was it just chance?
Yeah, I really think that somebody was watching over me. Somebody was watching over me, and I thought they are testing to see how low I can go before they send help. That's what went through my head.
Yeah.
But what kept you going? Because a lot of people in that situation would just cave, and they would find a way to either go back to where they came from, or just
I couldn't go back.
Yeah. So is that what it was? Just there was no other option.
Yeah, there was no other option. You had to either survive or you become homeless, or there's no other option.
Right. And I'm curious, as a learning lesson here, and and we'll get back to the the story, but for a lot of people, they're not always, it's not always their only option. They have different options. They could quit their job, they could find another job, they could do other things. How do you, and through your now years of experience as an entrepreneur, how do you stay in that survival mode, I have no other options but to succeed mindset?
This is, as you grow, I mean, your childhood has, and how you grow has really an impact of what we become. And, you learn to fight, you learn to survive.
Mm-hmm.
As human beings, we are all established in our DNA, in our archetype to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And, not to give up. I always in my head, even at the end when with $6.25 in my pocket, I always somehow thought I'm going to make it.
You had this optimism.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it. I'm going to find a way to make it. And I got a job. My first job was $1.65 an hour at Spire's Coffee Shop, graveyard shift, 11 to 7 in the morning, washing dishes. And I thought that was the best job I've ever had in my life. And, and they wouldn't give you the money. You had to wait for 2 weeks to get a paycheck. And I was dying to get a paycheck. And Mo says, here's $10. So you can
Advance.
Yes. And my roommate says, okay, you wait until you get your paycheck. You pay your rent. And my first check was $135 and change. And it was the best thing I've ever saw.
Wow.
It was, the color of the check was blue. I still remember.
Yeah. And did you feel like at that point, you're just going to build up from there? Like
Yes.
what you were just looking for the next step and the next
Right.
step. And
Yes, so-
did you have, what did you have in mind?
So now, I had basically a stepping stone and what to do next. And so I enrolled at LA Southwest College because I wanted to get an education. And I kept on working. After 2-3 weeks, they saw that, wow, I'm the best dishwasher they ever had. So because I was fast, I would finish things. So they said, okay, they promoted me to a busboy. And I bust dishes for a while. And then, I quit and went to, I didn't quit that fast. I made sure, actually, yes, I did quit fast. because it was Mother's Day or something. And if you ever worked as a busboy, you got to clean the tables fast.
Yep.
Go bring more plates in, etc. And I had a boss who was really horrible, was shouting at me, and I was the best worker they had. And, one day it was a Sunday, and I got so fed up from his shouting that literally I had a bunch of plates in my hand. I dropped it in the middle of the dining room, and I said, I quit. And
That's the English version of Yasu when you drop the place.
yes. So I quit and left, and then, and I had maybe $500-$600 in saving, and then, I quit, and I said, what the hell did you do? Why did you do that? But when I got a job at the Reef Restaurant in Long Beach as a waiter, and now I could wait tables and get tips.
And this is while you're still in school?
Yes, I worked through. The last job I had was at LAX, that round restaurant.
Mm-hmm. It's closed now.
Yeah, I was, yes. But I became a captain, which was great. And because I had more tables, I had a couple of waiters working for me.
Yep.
But I was still very cheap. I bought a tuxedo. They said you have to have a tuxedo. I bought a tuxedo for $25 from LA Southwest College, which I hemmed. Also, that's also hanging in here with my last tip inside.
You got to go to the Isaac Museum after this and check it out.
So during this time, Isaac, that you're doing this kind of restaurant hospitality work, was there anything else you had in mind that you wanted to do, or was this just, again, this is my day-to-day, I'm not thinking ahead?
No, I'm a civil engineer by education.
Yeah.
Remember, I came here before the Shah, before the Khomeini regime. And my goal was to get a civil engineering job and go back to Iran, because civil engineers at that time, all kind of engineers. Most Iranians who came here,
were engineers.
they became
Yeah.
engineers.
It was like the oil company was a
oil companies, everything, construction,
Yeah, even the Persian Armenians that came
Right.
after the Shah fell, a
Right.
lot of them are, to
Engineers.
this day, are engineers. Yeah.
Yes,
Both
exactly.
grandfathers were engineers, worked
Yeah.
for the oil company.
Yeah, that's what they did.
Yeah.
Because you would make a lot of money as an engineer going back. So I got my degree in civil engineering, and I graduated in 1978 from Cal State LA. It took me so long because I would take, I couldn't afford, you had to pay for tuition. So I couldn't afford to pay and work at the same time. So it took me a long time to graduate.
No
And
financial aid back then.
No, nothing. No. You were a foreign student, you had to pay per unit.
Yeah.
So once you graduated, what did you end up doing?
So when I was in the engineering school, I always thought to myself, I want to look at something else and have my own business. So I took a couple of marketing classes. One of them was taught by a guy, I forgot his name. He was in mail order and direct marketing class. The name of the class was direct marketing. And so I took a couple of his classes. And when I graduated, I had saved about $15,000, $18,000 of money. And I went to Iran after the revolution. And I didn't like the Shah, but I didn't like this regime even more. So I packed.
A lot had changed when you went back.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, it was chaos. They took the country backward, in my opinion.
Yep.
They became more fanatic than before. So I came back to LA and started a company called Surprise Gift Wagon, where I sold mail order.
I'm curious, before we talk about that, being in a position where, you said you had 18,000 saved up, which obviously could pay the bills for a certain amount of time, but it's not, all this money. Why didn't you think, I'm going to go, I just got a degree in civil engineering, I'm going to go down the safer path perhaps and get a job somewhere and build more, get more income, as opposed to taking this huge risk of starting a business, which, at the time certainly wasn't easy to raise money, like it is today.
Right. Yeah.
You have to, you have costs, you have inventory if you're starting like a product type of business. So there's all these, like, it's a capital intensive thing. Why didn't you take the safer route?
Because, I was always a risk taker, and I had some business experience working at my dad's shop, because I would go to the bazaars and buy textile and bring it and selling it. So I
can do this. I can make this happen.
I said, okay, yeah, I can do this. And I saw the dream in that direct to marketing class, that mail order, if you hit it right, it can become very big. So I decided to do that. And I started importing brass giftware. I have it in my office. I still have them. And putting ads in Home and Garden and other magazines, and got a P.O. box in Beverly Hills, because I thought, well, if they will be much more.
Yep.
So, and I would go every day to check for checks, and there were checks people send.
So you were importing the brass. Was it, once you made the sale, then you would pay for it, or did you have to buy a bunch of inventory?
No, you had to buy the inventory.
Where did you? Was it just 18,000?
From 18,000, I remember I sent by Western Union. There were no $3,500 to a vendor in Korea, and they shipped me the product.
And where were you selling these?
In the USA, but I had it in ads in magazines, LA Times. I mean, not LA Times. Home and Garden, etc. That's how mail order was at that time. I always say, if I was patient, I would beat Jeff Bezos and be bigger than Amazon. Yeah. But that's what I started doing that. I was not patient, because it would take. At that time, you had to put an ad in the magazine and wait for 60, 90 days for to come. So I had learned import-export, so I started importing a consumer electronics, what they call gray market.
Yep.
And basic name brand electronics, I would bring them from Japan and Korea, etc.
How did you see the opportunity for that?
Because I always read a lot of ads, etc. There was a company called Olympic Sales, and they had a big spread of ads on L.A. Times every week. And I would look at that and say, wow, this guy, they must be making a lot of money. And at that time, Sony Walkman had come up, etc. So I went and started. Telex is what we used at that time. There were no fax machines or email or any of that. And I sent the telex to a whole bunch of companies through Yellow Pages, asking for Sony Walkmans. And a couple of them replied, and I asked for the cost. So you could buy it for $60 and
$60?
Yes, and Olympic Sales was selling it for $129. So I bought 18 of them. That's all I could afford.
Wow. It's 100% markup. It's pretty good.
No, but that was retail. So I air freighted the merchandise here, and I went to Olympic Sales. I went in and told the reception I wanted to see the owner. He said, "Who are you?" I said, "Tell him I have Sony Walkman." So the guy comes out. His name was Francis Raval. I never forget him. Short French American guy. And he says, "Are these stolen?" He said, "No." He said, "How much do you want for them?" I said, $95. And he said, "Let me see them." So I took him to my car. He saw them. He says, "Are you sure they're not stolen?" I said, "Yeah, no, it's not stolen." He says, "Okay, I'll buy it, but I give you the money in 2 weeks."
Your first lesson in net 15.
Yes. No, so I said, "No, I want to get paid in 5 days maximum."
Yep.
So he says, "Fine." And that's how he started. He bought it. He gave, and 5 days later, I went and got the check. And then I got bigger. I became the biggest gray market importer of consumer electronics in America.
Were these stores like the Best Buys and the Circuit Cities?
There were no Best Buy at that time. There was at that time, there was
Radio
White
Shack?
Front, Radio Shack, White Front, which closed.
So what does this business, you're importing that, what does that sort of lead into?
So I am importing and selling consumer electronics, and getting bigger and bigger. I had a big booth at CES show in Las Vegas. And now I started traveling to go and buy more directly from the source. And I was in Osaka, Japan. And, I used to also buy closeout from Atari video games, and ship those video games to Hong Kong, Singapore, etc. Then Atari went bankrupt.
Yep. We've had Nolan Bushnell, the founder, on the show.
Yeah, exactly. I know him.
Yep.
So then, I was in Japan and I saw Wall Street Journal that Nintendo NES system have become a $5 billion business. Oh, shit.
There's got to be opportunity here.
Yeah, exactly. So I found out from the hotel. I said, "Where is the Nintendo headquarters?" They said it's in Kyoto. So I took a bullet train and went to Kyoto. And I took a taxi, went to Nintendo's headquarters, and asked to meet with the export manager. And if you dealt with the Japanese, the Japanese reception picked up the phone and talked to somebody on the other side in Japanese and said, "He's not here." I said, "Okay, who are you talking to?" He's not here. I said, "Don't worry, I will wait until he comes." So he did again. She did again, and I sat in the lobby. And in Japan, everybody goes to lunch at 12:30. All.
Yeah.
I come back at 1:30. It's not scattered. So 12:30 came, and she said to me, "It's lunchtime." I said, "I'm not hungry. I'm going to wait here." And so everybody was leaving. This tall guy goes and talks to the reception, looks at me, and leaves. And the poor receptionist had to sit there because skip lunch because I was sitting there.
Yeah.
So
Couldn't leave you unattended.
Yeah. So the guy looked at me and left, and then after lunch they came back, and I knew he was being the export manager. So he came over and he says, "Hi, I'm Mr. Todori." "Oh, hi, I'm Isaac Larian." I gave him my card, and he says, "What do you want?" And the Japanese usually are not rude, but he was rude. So I said, "I want to buy your Nintendo Game & Watch, handheld games, and sell it in America."
And this is the predecessor to the Game Boy, right?
Right, exactly. Yes.
Game & Watch.
Right, Game & Watch, yeah. I still have samples of this in my office. So he says, "We're not interested." I said, "Wow. Okay, can I have your business card?" So he finally gave me his business card. And I came back to LA. I went to Mitsui Manufacturers Bank, who was my bank at the time. And I opened a letter of credit for $1 million. I had a line of credit now. I was doing $70 million in business. And directly to Nintendo, "Attention, Mr. Todori." And then 3 days later, I called him and I said, "Did you get the letter of credit?" And he says, "Yes, I told you we're not interested." But I knew the Japanese, once that they get to take your money, they don't want to give it back. So he said, I said, "To show you I'm serious." He says, "Okay, we will sell you these. It will take 90 days and we will ship them in the Japanese packaging in the gift." I said, "Can you just," because I couldn't sell Japanese packaging here.
Yeah.
So, "Can you give it to me in bulk, in plastic?" "No, that's the only way." So, okay, fine.
So he's a good negotiator.
No, I mean, they're difficult, because they could have really thrown away the boxes. Actually, they would save money.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if you mentioned it, but were they already exporting these Game & Watches?
No,
So you would have been the first.
Yeah, I was the first.
You became the
Well,
first
they
one.
tried to do that. I found out 3-4 years before, and they failed. They failed. So they gave up selling Nintendo Game & Watch in America. Instead, they sold Nintendo NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So I started the subsidiary called Micro Games of America because I wanted to be like Nintendo of America. So
Yep.
And I found the packaging company in Carson, and literally the merchandise came. I created a new package, blister pack, and put the product in there. Nintendo Micro Games of America on the top.
I want to kind of dive, before we talk about micro game MGA, which I'm sure, we'll talk about how it became MGA,
Right.
but, your mindset at this time and, being where you were before and even like when you were younger and having this desire to want to be wealthy, never be in this position again where you don't have money. And then you come to America and you're sort of at, ground zero, just starting from the bottom. And now you're at a place where I'm guessing you're making a little bit of money. You're able to afford, life in America. Did that desire, that
I had
burning?
Mercedes.
You had a Mercedes. Okay, so you're doing pretty well. I mean, Mercedes, at the time, especially too, it's an expensive car. So
Keeping up with the Middle Eastern
Middle- yeah.
aesthetic.
But it was diesels, it was cheaper.
Perfect. Yeah.
did that burning desire come back where you're like, now I'm back on track. I want to be
Yes.
wealthy. And how did you control that being at a place where I think, it seems like these days the desire out sort of weighs the, where you're at. It's like you try to get ahead of yourself too quickly. And sometimes it doesn't, end up, the patience is important too, right? Like of building and building and building little by little.
Yeah, I'm not sure if patience is.
How were you?
I'm very impatient.
Yeah.
You know,
You think
I
that
joke.
played a big role in?
Yeah, because I mean, I was also paranoid.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next? What's next? What happens if Nintendo dies? What's next? So I'm very competitive. I'm very paranoid, and trying to come up with the next thing. And that's a burning desire that kept me going. It still keeps me going.
And Isaac, at the time, how big was your team?
We had 23 people.
And what were you like as a leader, as their boss? With somebody who's impatient and wanting to just kind of keep going, a lot of times that could be pretty demanding for your team.
Yeah, I was very demanding. I was an ass, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but do you? And again, we keep it real. We've been doing this for 6 years, so we know how it goes. But do you think that that's what it takes, especially early on, to have that kind of impatient, urgent mentality?
Yes.
And be demanding to reach that level of success?
Yeah, you have to. You have to work passionately, and don't feel hunger, don't feel anything. I mean, I used to work 20 hours a day, 27 days a week.
Yeah.
20 hours a day. I mean, I would sleep 2-3 hours and be back at it again, sending a telex, buying a new deal, selling it. So yeah, that's what you need to have that.
How do you keep your team motivated, right? When you do have that drive, that motivation, and a lot of times as a founder, this show is we don't interview only CEOs.
Right.
You've got to be the founder, right? And you have that burning desire to succeed because that's what you created, right? It's like your baby, and you don't want to see it die. You want to see it continue to grow and thrive and thrive and thrive. But how do you instill that into your people?
I think passion and drive is contagious, and if you're genuine about it, everybody wants to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in the business wants to succeed, and when you lead them like this, when you're passionate about what you do, or back then, like there were people saying, "Oh my God, it's 8:00 at night. He's still in the parking lot. His car is still there. I was the last one to leave." They would stay because I don't know how to describe it. It became like part of the same organism.
Right.
You have to become one with your team.
Right. I see on the wall owner-operator culture. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, owner-operator culture, giving people a chance. Fortune favors the bold. These are all my sayings over the years. That is throughout the company, but that's what it takes. I mean, that's what entrepreneurs have. What I call an innate ability. They're like hunters.
Yeah.
Like if you go, I went to a safari in Africa, and I'm always curious and very observant. And we were sitting in this car, and this lion was laying low on the long grass. We could see it because we were in the car, but the rest of the herds, etc., would not. And he was sitting there for at least 35, 40 minutes. And a herd came, and then he started jumping. And he went until he caught one. So that's a mentality that you got to look for opportunities and go be a hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, in order, people ask me, I used to teach entrepreneurship at Cal State LA. That's where I graduated. And a couple of times at UCLA. And I would write on the whiteboard that in order to succeed, you must embrace failure. You must literally say, I want to fail. Because once you say, I want to fail, you don't have a fear of failure.
Yeah,
then
removing the fear.
You make things happen crazy things that a lot of people think it's not possible. I mean, Steve Jobs was an incredible entrepreneur. Elon Musk, crazy guy. But look at him, because he embraced failure. He said, okay, I'm going to get up and do it again. The biggest entrepreneur was Thomas Edison. He tried, and I read somewhere, and failed 990 times before making the light bulb. Can you imagine? If he hadn't succeeded, we would be under candlelights.
Right.
And but he finally succeeded. He didn't give up.
Yep. So going back to the story of MGA,
Right.
So when does importing the consumer electronics become creating toys?
Yeah, so basically, this what happened. I got these rights from Nintendo, and I started a subsidiary called Microgames of America, and it was selling Nintendo Game and Watch. The first year, I think we sold about $23 million, made 32% gross margin, which was in consumer electronics, you made 8 to 10%.
Yeah.
And I said, oh my God, I died and gone to heaven. And a year later, I almost went bankrupt because I had $10 million worth of Nintendo Game and Watch. People wanted something new. They didn't want it. But so I kept the consumer electronics. And I liquidated the Game and Watch. But once you get the taste, that taste of 32%, you don't want to let it go.
The taste of like the $1 million.
Right,
Yeah.
it is. So it is. So then I went and got the licenses for Pac-Man and Star Wars.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, Barbie and Uno. And I made electronic handheld games under that name and kept selling it. In consumer electronic became harder and harder.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people went into it. The Japanese started selling cheaper here. So there was not that arbitrage.
Isaac,
anymore.
did you ever have a passion for what you were doing, or were you just more passionate about business and the chance and the opportunity to make money in that arbitrage kind of,
both
environment?
Yeah, both. But as a child, I didn't have toys, and I have a special relationship and special love for children. People who know me, they will see me around children. They say, wow, your face changed, your eyes changed. I love children. And, and my wife becomes, after you've been married for a long time, your wife has nothing else to do, so it becomes your analyst and says, you're leaving your child within. But I have 3 grandchildren. Yeah. And, I don't know how to describe it. It's the love that, not only them. So that's why I decided to do toys. And
were you married at the time, Isaac, when you were building when you were building MGA, the Microgames of America? Were you married? You had a family already?
No, I already had built a good business, and I got married in 1984.
Mm-hmm. And was it? I'm sure your wife has a lot of patience since you don't have a lot of the patience. Right. How was it, or how is it dealing with you? As I should ask her this question, but
yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's not easy to deal with entrepreneurs. It is very difficult to deal with entrepreneurs because their head is going, like
1,000 miles an hour.
Yes. Like, can you imagine you're married, you're at dinner, your head is into the business, and your wife asks you a question or say something.
Can we go on vacation, Isaac?
And you say, don't talk to me right now. I know. Why? When can we talk? Not now. So it's not easy. It's very difficult to deal with that.
So what was the toy industry like when you started to get into toys?
Wow, toy industry was very different when I got involved in it. First of all, toy building was in 100 years in New York Toy Fair. It was where magic happened. We had a booth, not a booth, we had a part of a showroom that we would get, and retailers will come and actually write actual orders in those shows. So it was exciting. Toy business, I think, is one of the most exciting businesses on earth because it's like a fashion business. The feeling of getting an order. I used to say, wow, when you get an order, now you want to go have a smoke because it's like having an orgasm. It really was that kind of feeling. Wow, I got an order here. Yeah. So it's very, very exciting. But the kids change all the time, and you got to change with them. You got to change with them. Can you imagine if we had Nintendo Game and Watch now, we would be bankrupt. Yeah. Nobody wants it.
But to get the business going, it was obviously a very different type of business than games where it's a probably a different type of manufacturing process, maybe not, but like how did you get the ball rolling? How did you like pivot the business into manufacturing toys?
Yeah, so I basically being curious and finding out what to do next, how to like at that time I found a lot of these factories through Yellow Pages.
In the US or
you would go to Korean consulate or Chinese consulate or Hong Kong consulate and say, I want a list of all these factories who make not only toys, but for a while I was in textile. And, I was importing textile from Korea, Georgette, and selling it, making 30-40% profit until all the Persians found out what I'm doing and they came into it.
Yeah.
So I left. So I went to something else. Went to consumer electronics. Went to toys.
So kind of maybe fast forwarding a little bit, early 2000s, I think it's 2001 when the Bratz doll comes out.
Right.
Kind of give us the backstory of that. I'm assuming presumably Barbie was a big hit at this time. I'm guessing they owned the whole market pretty much when it came to like toys for younger girls, especially. What inspired that? What inspired?
So
Bratz
we got into doll business in 1996, I believe, 5 or 6. It's singing Bouncy Baby. Never made doll. Didn't know how to do a doll. And that was my first doll. And
did you have daughters?
I had my daughter. She was young, but I never knew how to make a doll.
Yeah.
So this inventor comes in and says, I have this doll, you bounce it on your arm one at a time. He showed me. It's the sing, bouncy, bouncy, baby, me. Wow, it was magical. One syllable at a time. And I said, his name was Joe. I said, Joe, I don't know how to make dolls. He says, I'll help you to do that. What do you mean? He says, I give you the prototype. I said, okay, packaging. He says, I know these guys who make freelance packaging. I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to Hong Kong. Make me a sample. And I'm going to go there and I'll do it. So he made me a sample. I took it to Hong Kong. I went to check and found out there are 2 factories who make dolls for Mattel. One was called Ovation. The other one was called Washing. So I went to them and I said, I come for a meeting. I say, if you make this doll for me for $5.25, I buy 1 million pieces. And one of them said, okay, we'll do it. And I didn't have an order for 1 million pieces, but that was my wish. And I brought that doll and sold it to everybody.
And that was Bratz.
No, it was Singing Bouncy Baby. So we became big in the doll business. And then there was a buyer at Walmart. His name was Ron Stover. He would never buy a doll. Never. I mean,
from you.
It was so difficult. I mean, people ask me, how the hell what's the name of MGA from? And it came from Ron Stover. This is what happened. I went to him. Now I have small kids. And I go all the way to Bentonville, Arkansas. He says, no. And at that time, if in order to sell a doll, you had to have at least 4 major retailers. And you had to make a TV commercial to show them to buy it. And he said, no. So I said, Ron, what? I come here all the time. Isn't my accent? Why are you not buying a doll from me? And he says, this doll, Toys R Us is buying, Kmart is buying, Target, why are you not buying? And his answer was, Isaac, you're Micro Games of America. Who will buy a doll from a company called Micro Games of America? Okay, is it name? I said, okay, I changed the name of the company to MGA.
You did that on the spot?
Yeah, on the spot. And he says, okay, you're too quick. Okay, we will try.
Yeah.
We will try. So that's how we got into the doll business. We grew.
Power of branding.
Yes, exactly. So it grew, but then again, Ron Stover will not buy my next doll. I said, Ron, what does it take? He took me to a Walmart store and showed me his whole aisle 98 feet of Barbie in coffin boxes. They didn't have window boxes at that time. And he says, Isaac, they have 98% of the market share. And I don't have to do anything. They come, they set up the planogram, they buy what doesn't sell, they take back. Why should I risk my bonus and buy your product? So what does it take, Ron, to get you to buy? He says, come up with something that competes with Barbie, I'll buy it. Write it on your business card and give it to me. So he did. And I came back, I told my team, some are here, Paulo is still here. I said, give me something that competes with Barbie. And everything.
And you have 2 hours to do it.
No, yes. But they came with a whole bunch of designs that were all knockoff of Barbie. I said, no, I want something different. This guy will not buy it from me unless it's different. Then, September 1, 2000, Paula came to my office. My daughter, Jasmine, was there at the time. I think she was 11 at the time. I used to bring my kids to work when they didn't have school. And Paula came and says, I think I have the next Barbie. Okay, let me see. Comes in with this guy named Carter Bryant. And he has a whole bunch of drawings. These alien-looking dolls with the big head. And I said, that's it? And he said, yes. And this is very different. So I looked at Jasmine and I said, what do you think? And she says, Dad, they are cool. That's all I wanted to hear because kids are so innocent and direct. They tell you either something sucks or it's cool. And there was a spark in her eyes.
Right.
Immediately, she became vice president of product.
Yeah. Named one of the dolls after her. So she's a Jasmine.
Yeah.
She's a Jasmine doll. So anyway, so it's okay, we'll do this. And it's September. And being impatient, Paulo says, okay, we have to do this right. It's going to take a year and a half, 2 years. Paulo, I want to have samples that I'll take to Hong Kong Toy Show and sell. Impossible. Nothing is impossible. Go find a model maker, pay him double the clothing, etc. And I took 4 dolls with, they didn't even have time to sew the clothing. We used safety pins to keep the clothes on them. And I took these to Hong Kong. And Bandai in Spain bought it. Target thought it was very cool. They bought it.
I remember when the Bratz dolls came out because my sister was probably 5 or 6 years old. And I mean, as Armenians, right, Middle Easterns, you're a lot more ethnic looking, a little bit more olive brown, and your Barbies are white blonde. The girls that greeted you at LAX. But it was just that's all that was in our household,
right?
Because it looked more like her. Right, the big, not that she has a big head, but bigger head, curly black hair. Right, I'm looking at some of these now. It represented more of the demographic of America, right?
Exactly.
Versus
it's a melting pot. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah. So this is how we got into it. But guess what? Ron Stover says he won't buy it
because they're not.
I said, Ron, you told me this is your card. And he says, they look ugly, they look alien, they're not going to. I said, they're beautiful. He said, I'm not going to. So I had it with him. I went to the CEO back then, Lee Scott. Literally walked into his room.
The CEO of Walmart?
Yes. Yeah. I didn't give a shit. I would go. I went in. And I said, hi, Lee. This guy maybe doesn't like Persians. He doesn't buy anything from me. He saw this. He says, okay, Isaac, you're way over the top again, because I used to go over buyer's head all the time. Okay, let me talk to him. So he brings him, talks to him. He says, so Ron says, okay, I will buy it, but only Chloe Chloe was the blonde one. I said, Ron, not everybody's blonde and blue eyes, man. My daughter has olive skin, and I named one of the dolls after her.
Yep.
And they want to buy dolls that reflects who they are.
But this guy's in Bentonville, Arkansas. I mean, he doesn't know what the rest of America is like.
Exactly. So he says, no. I said, okay, if you won't buy all 4, I won't sell it to you. So he
Reverse Uno card.
Right. So he says, okay, I'll give you a chance. And Bratz launched in 2001, became Toy of the Year. Barbie had 98% market share. By 2004, we had 46% market share. They had Mattel Barbie had 43%. And that's despite all they did. They got rid of the coffin boxes and went to open packaging. They knocked us off with My Scene Barbie, which is, you can go on the internet and look at it. It looks exactly like Barbie.
And I know that there's been a lot of like legal battles ever since then. Right. But I just kind of talking about MGA, you know, and its growth over the years. I'm guessing there was many years of just like riding the wave of the Bratz doll. But as I'm sure you would agree, like the innovation part is important, right? Like you can't just rely on one product line to sustain for the rest of time. Right. So over time, how have you innovated and continue to stay on top of the...
Yeah, as I told you, I'm paranoid. And kids are like ants. They speak their own language. And have you seen ants? They walk, they talk to each other, and nobody understands what they say. So they keep changing, and I changed. I changed with it. And we created, you know, we're fortunate. We have created over 100 different brands from zero in MGA. I think 13 or 16 of them have gone to do $100 million or more. And the latest one, which was bigger than Bratz, was L.O.L. L.O.L. Surprise. And, you know, I got this from being Persian. Your kids make fun of you all the time. And I'm sure you guys made fun of your parents.
Yeah, still do.
Right. So, you know, my kids say, oh, you don't know.
Right.
You don't know. Do you know what's iPhone unboxing? What is iPhone unboxing? No, you see, you don't know. People go unbox their iPhone in front of a camera, put it on YouTube, and they get 18, 19 million views.
Hey, who was that 4-year-old or 6-year-old? Ryan's Toys, that kid. What a legend.
Yeah, he made. So I went and looked. I thought they were pulling my leg. So one night in the middle of the night, I went and put in YouTube iPhone unboxing. Holy shit. These people are unboxing a box and people are watching it. I said, what the hell? So I put toy unboxing. And then I saw a whole bunch of people, Cookie, whatever her name is, Sawyer, all these people. And the next day I couldn't sleep. I came to the office, went and got Paula and everybody. Said, I want to have the ultimate unboxing toy. A toy. And they came up with L.O.L. Surprise. And it's an ultimate unboxing toy. But even, you know, people don't see your vision until as Steve Jobs says, until you show them that they need it.
Right.
So when we came up with L.O.L. Surprise, the doll in a ball, and the buyer at Target told me, I'm not going to buy it. I said, why? Because nobody's going to buy a doll that they don't see. That's the whole point.
Yeah, you know, just hearing your story, there's so many like common threads throughout it all in terms of seeing opportunity and striking as quickly as you can and not sitting on it too long. Like you see it, you can just go after it.
Right, exactly. And don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Do you ever just sit in your office and like LOL at like what life is for you now?
I still am crazy coming up with new ideas.
But like from where you began to where you are now, and just like, I mean, what you've created, like.
I don't really let it get to my head.
Yeah.
I still have the feeling that if everything fails, I can still go wash dishes
Yeah.
and survive.
That's incredible.
Have you been washing dishes lately?
Yeah, I wash dishes still. Not as far as coffee shop, but when you're married, you wash dishes.
Yeah.
Well, Isaac, this has been such a pleasure. I mean, I feel like
Thank
we
you.
can sit here and chat with you all day and just
Thank you.
learn about, your life and all the wisdom you've accumulated. But I think when we pulled in, we saw you were sort of continuing to build out the campus here. So we're excited
Right.
to see how it looks once it's done. But, all the success that you're going to continue to have with MGA. And we appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Nice meeting you guys.